comes out, again, not to issue a statement, but to say, you know, she wants to see the election schedule for the next parliamentary election announced as soon as possible. So, you know, unprecedented American interference. Now, in this edition is very critical, very important. I'm going to discuss this, but I'm also going to give you the wider perspective. A lot of things are happening. We don't have proof on everything. There are lots of conspiracy theories, a lot of media reports. We don't have proof on everything, but we can see a trail of events. We can see a trail of events, and we can, any intelligent person, any intelligent analyst can put these things together and read certain things, where things are going. And we're going to do this in this edition, and joining me is Mr. Zaid Hamid, who's the founding consultant for Brass Tacks, which is a prominent premier Pakistani security and defense analysis group based here in Islamabad. Thank you very much, Zaid, for joining us.
Thank you, Ahmed, for having me.
Zaid, my very first question is this. Why this unprecedented American interest in seeing Mrs. Benazir Bhutto in power in Islamabad simultaneously with seeing President Musharraf weakened? And is this just a normal American interest in seeing the triumph of democracy, or is there something more to it?
No, there's much more sinister to it. Let me be very frank here. You see, what has been happening in the last 4 years particularly is that Americans have been pushing President Musharraf on 5 or 6 strategic points. 5 or 6 strategic points which affect US foreign policy in Central Asia, Asia, Eurasia, and Far East for the 21st century, and in the greater Middle East as well. For example, Americans have been pushing him to hand over Dr. A.Q. Khan. He has not done it. For whatever reasons, he has not done it. Americans have been pushing him to hand over whatever Pakistan knows about the North Korean nuclear program. Pakistan have not done it. Americans have been pushing him to roll back Pakistan's nuclear and missile program. He has not done it. Americans have been pushing him to break off relationships with Iran. He has not done it. Break off relationships with Afghanistan. He has not done it. And as well, at the same time, Americans have been pushing him to go head-on into the tribal areas, literally rolling over our own people there, while the government has been steady, trying to make deals, trying to understand the environment there and go slow. And go slow on our own tribes, but going very harsh on the militants there. So these factors which Americans feel, and in fact, and also the President Musharraf did not recognize Israel, and he did not send forces to Iraq. So there are multiple, all these elements.
But President Musharraf did actually allow his foreign minister to shake hands with the Israeli foreign minister.
Cosmetics. In reality, Israel was never allowed access into Pakistan. Pakistan never recognized them, and Israel, despite the fact that they are so desperate to have access into this area, and still they haven't. So these are the things that Americans wanted someone else to deliver now. For the Americans, I've said this before as well, the President Musharraf has run out of his useful life for them. And they want a more pliant, more compliant, or more soft leader here who, under the facade of democracy, would be able to deliver them these goals. And obviously, I don't want to go against anybody in particular, but we have heard noises and sounds and statements coming from so many sources which confirm that whoever they want to replace with President Musharraf would be more than willing to assist them in those.
No, let me, if you allow me to interrupt here, Zaid, before you go on to your next points, just a quick interruption. What I understand from what you just said is, what he basically, I mean, you know, the critics of President Musharraf basically accuse him, among many other things, of being an American stooge. I mean, that's the word they use for him. From your analysis here, what you're telling me is that despite being in cahoots and very close to Washington and Washington's policy in the region, President Musharraf actually resisted Washington on these points?
This is what has happened is there is one aspect of President Musharraf which is so close to the Americans that it is actually disturbing. I'll be very honest, it's very disturbing at certain aspects. But on the other hand, he is so adamant to the Americans, he's so defiant to the Americans, that's disturbing for the Americans. And this is where he is trying to juggle and balance his relationship, because he cannot compromise Pakistan's relationship with China or Iran or Pakistan's nuclear program or Dr. A.Q. Khan or Pakistan's North Korean initiative or whatever, or the war against religious terrorism, for example, in Pakistan. What the Americans are saying is that President Musharraf should have done more, and on the grounds of religious terrorism. And whoever they want to replace with, they would be saying is they should be going faster into this area of religious terror or fighting the religious extremism. I can very safely say, as a professional analyst, Okay, no ruler in Pakistan can go more faster than what already President Musharraf is doing. In fact, he's suicidal. What he has done is he has thrown caution to winds, he has endangered in certain, he has harmed Pakistan's own interest in so many places. That's what I said. This is a disturbing aspect of it. In fact, he should slow down, very slow down. He should reevaluate the whole strategy, take the national parliament into confidence, take the nation into confidence, take the religious clergy, media, think tank, society, civil society on board instead of taking independent decisions now on this aspect.
But there are some analysts who are saying, Zed, that with the imposition of emergency, basically I wouldn't say he's doing exactly what you just mentioned, but he has actually, I don't know, thrown cold water maybe on Washington's plans, the things that they were going, I mean, the direction.
This is exactly what he has done, you see, because basically their worst nightmare for the Americans is to delay of elections, if these elections are postponed, because if the elections are postponed, then their candidate would not be coming in here. So this is obviously, and once President Musharraf gives them the assurance that elections will be held on time, all the fuss you're hearing about emergency would simply cool off. And already the signs are that it is.
Okay, my next question is maybe comes within the, some people might describe it as a conspiracy theory, but there are some people who are saying that in order to pressure the Pakistani leadership, President Musharraf, into a certain direction, the elections and so forth, and allowing that candidate that he just mentioned, in order to put that kind of pressure, internal and external pressures have been put on the president. I'm not just talking about diplomatic pressures, I'm talking about things on the ground, boots on the ground, things in our borders, things that are happening in our tribal areas in the north of Pakistan. Tell me about that. I mean, what's your assessment of that?
You see, whatever is happening in our tribal areas, and now from that arc we move into Swat Valley also, is highly suspicious. It's very highly suspicious. Starting up from Balochistan, when we talk of the insurgency of the Balochistan Liberation Army, we know for sure, it's on record, absolutely without any doubt, that they are based in Afghanistan, in Kabul. Their operations are taking place from that area. All the world have declared BLA as a terrorist outfit except the Americans.
The so-called Balochistan Liberation
Army. They are protecting them. Why? This is one signal. Second thing is, Afghanistan has become such a haywire free country. There's absolutely every intelligence agency in the world, particularly Mossad, particularly Khadd, particularly RAW, particularly CIA, MI6, and they can operate with impunity. And absolutely there's no check on what is happening in Afghanistan now.
But it's supposed to be under American control, Afghanistan.
See, Iraq is also supposed to be under American control. But what is happening? See, there are two countries that invaded by, post 9/11 invaded by the Americans. I'll give you the example of Iraq first. Iraq is under the American control. Turkey is the American ally. But the American policies in Iraq have created a state in which the dismemberment of Turkey is threatened. When the Kurdish state is being created, and Turks took it such an offense at that, they actually threatened to launch military operations inside northern Iraq in Kurdistan. And they complained to Israel because
disturbing the American plans.
Disturbing the American plans, and the Israeli military advisors were training the Kurds who were attacking Turkey. And Turkey have a relationship with Israel.
And they protested to Israel.
And they protested to Israel on that as
Turkey,
well. So it's something very haywire is happening. What is happening is that the American game plan in the greater Middle East is actually at the cost of its allies, Turkey and Pakistan. In Turkey, they want Greater Kurdistan, which is basically going to take a chunk of territory from Iran and chunk of territory from Iraq. In this area, the American game plan, which if you just look at this map, which the Armed Forces Journal of the Americans released, and they say we have got nothing to do with this, with just an academic document. No, but the academic document is
I think
actually
it was published by the U.S. Defense Journal,
Armed Forces Journal.
Yeah.
But whatever they say is actually happening on ground. Turkey is invading Iraq.
Well, why don't you just show the map again? I mean, just to see the exactly. I mean, this is the actual map. Let me just show it here from this camera. I mean, we can see on top, first of all, the existing map. I mean, this is the existing map. And if you go down, you see the after, the before and after. The after one shows, of course, the same map with changed boundaries, the same countries with different boundaries. And this was published by the U.S. Armed Forces Journal, which is the magazine published by the U.S. Army and by some American analysts, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
So, and in this region,
where of course our western regions are shown to be part of Iran
and Pakistan's western regions on the Indus line, two changes have been shown in the Pakistani map. One is the Greater Balochistan. Balochistan is an autonomous state. Second, the entire west side of Indus joining up with Afghanistan. And this is what we call is the creation of Pashtunistan. See what has been, and interestingly, for the first time, even the